Enjoying that cars.
Call to order the Board of County Commissioners work session. Welcome everybody. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of Mexico, the sea is a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
At this time, is there any changes that need to happen to the agenda today?
Mr. Chairman, on the agenda, item 8, the executive session is not needed, so we'll ask to have that removed. And then, because we're removing that, item 7, the recess and reconvene back at the Grant County Administration Center, we'll remove that. There will be no need, so we'll just adjourn the meeting after the tour of the detention center out there at the detention center.
Okay.
So 7 and 8?
So 7 and 8 will be removed.
And adjourn here.
9 will become number 7.
Can I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And then we'll jump back up to 3 since I skipped it. The general purpose of a county work session is to inform the Grant County Board of Commissioners of the agenda items that will be addressed on the next regular meeting, and the department heads and other elected officials to communicate with commissioners in regard to matters in their respective departments. In accordance with the Grant County Resolution number 13-01, we welcome public to attend the county work session, but there will be no public input permitted during this meeting. So we'll move right into review of the there's nothing on here to review the regular meeting agenda. Okay, review regular meeting agenda. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Start with financial reports, be item D. In your package, you have the financial report ending March 31st, 2013. The general fund is, we will start, the actual cash balance of July 1st, 2012 was $4,100,855. Year-to-date revenues of $5,745,543. Year-to-date transfers of $302,000. Operating expenditures year-to-date of $2,481,291. Salaries and benefits year-to-date of $4,052,403 leaves a cash balance at March 31st, 2013 of $3,010,703, with projected transfers in and out, revenues and expenditures through June 30th, 2013 of a negative $124,130. Leaves a cash balance at June 30th, 2013 of $2,886,574, with a reserve of $2,807,123. Leaves a surplus at June 30th, 2013 of $79,451. On page 2 is the budgeted revenues. As of March 31st, 2013, we've collected 63.13% of the budgeted revenues for the general fund. Page 3 is the transfers. As of March 31st, we've done 19.36% of the budgeted transfers out of the general fund. The next page is the road department. As of July 1st, 2012, their balance was $425,180. Year-to-date revenues of $991,565. Year-to-date transfers of $300,000. Operating expenditures year-to-date of $197,155. Salaries and benefits of $913,041. Leaves an actual cash balance of March 31st, 2013 of $606,549, with projected transfers, revenues, and expenditures through June 30th, 2013 of $122,495. Leaves a cash balance on June 30th, 2013 of $729,044. Less a required reserve of $130,935, leaves a surplus at June 30th, 2013 of $598,109. The last page is the corrections fund. We started the year July 1st, 2012 at $394,379. year-to-date revenues of $686,362, operating expenditures of $422,441, salaries and benefits of $1,289,725, leaves a cash balance at March 31st, 2013 of a negative $631,425, with projected revenues, transfers, and expenditures through June 30th, 2013 of a positive $645,093, leaves the cash balance at June 30th, 2013 of $13,667. The reason why this fund goes in the negative during the year is because we transfer money from the general fund to offset their expenditures, and we just haven't done those transfers yet. We usually wait till later in the year to transfer them before we finish out the year. And so that's why, as of the March 31st, you see a negative balance. It's not because they're overexpending. It's because typically we have to transfer close to $1 million out of the general fund down into theirs. And so that will happen between now and June 30th. The next item is the expenditure report dated April 22nd. You have the expenditure report in front of you. It's $2,318,065.60. Going through it, there's no real extraordinary. We've been finishing up the construction on the conference center, so we're down to the last few items on that. So we've got some costs in that, a little over $100,000 in the conference center expenditures, and the rest of them are normal payrolls and our expenditures. It's the time frame. We've been only having about one meeting a month, and so it's larger reports. Moving on to new business, we have approved proclamation recognizing the Cliff High School Cowboys. This is a proclamation we had talked about at a previous meeting, but we could not get the schools here. They said this would be a good date for them to try and come to the commission meeting on Thursday to recognize for their achievements in the basketball. One thing I was speaking with Commissioner Hall before the meeting is we had always in the past, the last commission had started a practice of individual commissioners reading the proclamations, and the question was, do we want to just have one person, like Randy's here at all the meetings, do you want to have Randy read the proclamations, or continue with the commissioners taking turns reading proclamations?
You don't want to read proclamations?
Don't bother me, I just think it would be good to have one person do it.
Okay.
And so,
Because I've seen in the past shuffle between who wants to read it and stuff, and I don't think that's the way to do it.
yeah, sometimes they get passed around. The long ones especially seem to get bumped from person to person, and so.
Since I'm a low man reader. Since I'm the low man on the totem pole, those would be bounced to me.
And so that's something we can look at. I know we used to just have one person. I used to read them, or if we had Randy or the assistant. It's no big deal.
Now, Randy, I didn't suggest you, okay? That was John.
Randy's a good reader. He's got young eyes still. He can read and he can make those things out. I don't have to botch names in them. So that's one thing. And then we have, the next item is a certificate of recognition for Coach Schock for all his years of service. He's retired now. And so that's what that will be, is we originally had talked about doing a proclamation for him, but we had changed it to the certificate of recognition, which we thought would be a better deal, to recognize all his years as the coach for 35 years, coaching the Cliff Cowboys there.
Amazing.
He's devoted a lot of time.
I think the road department manager there was on the first team for Pete Lynch.
Approximately 35 years ago. That was back when Earl had a full head of hair. Afro.
You can say that.
I can say that because I used to have an afro.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The next item on the agenda is we've been approached by the American Legion to ask for a proclamation declaring May 14th, 2013 as American Legion Day. They brought this proclamation forth. It's going to be recognized, my understanding is that will be the day that the National Commander James E. Coots will be here in town, and so they wanted to present this proclamation to him on that day to show that Grant County stands behind the American Legion, the residents, the citizens, and the elected officials. The next item has been a request by the American Legion as well. They've asked to come in front of the commission and to address a proposal to change the name of the Grant County Business and Conference Center. They're wishing to change it to the something as the Grant County Veterans and Memorial. They said they're really not stuck on a name. They just like the name to have something to do with veterans, and so is what they said in talking with them. But yeah, the thing they have in here is the Grant County Veterans Memorial Conference Center. I spoke to a gentleman and said, well, we have Baton Park that we've named as a veterans area, and there seems to be, I guess, an appearance in the community or something that is only for Vietnam veterans and doesn't recognize all veterans. And so I spoke with Mr. Ray, and he said that no, it's all veterans, and they're trying to get that out. It's gotten this kind of stigmatism that...
You tell them that Baton wasn't in Vietnam?
Yeah. And so they're wanting to do something with the conference center, and I said, well, they can present to the commission. Since I've been here, we've never named a building anything. The reason why it says Grant County Business and Conference Center on it is because everybody was yelling at us because the sign was missing, and when we bought the place, it didn't have the stream sign anymore, and it was just this ugly metal hole out at the road. So we made up a sign that said Grant County Business and Conference Center. I know by the grant we have to retain Conference Center in it because it can't be called a civic center because the grant funding couldn't pay for civic center, so it has to be a conference center as part of the grant stipulations. So the name can be anything, but it has to say conference center is the only part of it. So it's something they wish to present. It's not an action item, it's just a presentation to you so that you can think about it for future. Okay. The next item is High Desert Humane Society Heidi Sexton to give an update on the animal shelter. As you know, we have, and Commissioner Hall may not because we haven't talked about it, is we have a contract with the High Desert Humane Society to do our animal control in the county. And so they take care of animal control for us. We have an agreement with them. And so they come and they give updates to the commission on about every 6-month period to let you know how things are going, what their numbers have been like. They're doing things trying to control the numbers coming in, and the way our contract is based, we pay a set amount each month and then a cost per animal that's brought in, a dog or a cat. And so the more they work on reducing the numbers, it reduces the cost to Grant County to do that. So the next item is the Wellness Coalition, Ms. Lisa Jimenez, to give an update on the Nonprofit Resource Center. Commissioner Miller had, before she was done with the commission, had given some money out of her discretionary funds to have the Wellness Coalition do some work with the nonprofits. They've been doing that. My understanding is that Mrs. Zuner has moved on. She's no longer with the Wellness Coalition. Possibly could already be, if she's not there, was going to Germany for a while. That's where she's from, spends a lot of her time. So she's going there, and so she's no longer with the Wellness. So Mrs. Jimenez is the individual that took over for her in her role there. So she wants to come and meet the commission and give you an update on what they've been doing, where they're going, what their plans are for the future, so you can get to know her a little better as well. The next item is the Juvenile Probation Office, Mr. Chris Arvidsson, to give an update on the surveillance and GPS program. In the past, this was always Margaret Begay that came and gave this update to the commission. Margaret has now moved on to be in charge of the drug court for district courts, which she'll probably be back seeing you because she called me yesterday and wants to try and do an ankle bracelet program through drug court as well, like she started at the JPPO. So we might start to see more of her as her drug court role going forward.
That's good.
Yeah, so she's really going to work on that. But Chris wants to come and give the commissioners an update, where they've been, where they're going, reassure the commission that just because Margaret is gone, that the program is still going to be continued on, and they're going to dedicate their time to making sure it's just as good, if not better, than it was before. So it's always growing, because it is a good resource to us for the juveniles in the area, since we don't have a juvenile detention center. And then, like I said, the one thing they're doing, and he may speak of that, because I spoke with Margaret yesterday, she's going to get with Chris. They have a couple bracelets they're currently not using, so what we might do is, because it's the same provider we would work with drug court, she's going to see if she can use those couple bracelets, the 2 to 3 they have on the shelf right now, and start it on the drug court side to see how it's going to work and develop it, and then come forward with the commission for next year's budget to see if there's something we can't do there to just increase the number of bracelets we have under the contract, so they can both be using them for their clients.
On the sidebar there, you mentioned juvenile detention. Did anything come out of the session on juvenile detention for Hidalgo County?
I haven't looked fully at the severance tax bonds. My understanding is that the money was being put in by Representative Irwin to give her money to Hidalgo County so that they can use it to start remodeling their detention center to be a juvenile facility. I haven't looked. I'll look fully at the severance tax bond, so on Thursday I can let you know for sure. I looked through for Grant County to see if anything was line item vetoed, and nothing was. So that was my main concern first, and so I will look for Hidalgo County after this meeting, and I can let you know. But my understanding is they were going to get money. I don't think it's going to be enough to do the full conversion. It might start their design and everything else, but they are working towards that process of getting a...
And we're hoping to get more money next year for that area, being that the eastern portion of the state got, I believe it was $4 million. Hopefully we can do the same for this next year coming up.
Yeah, and we're looking, this is kind of the push to have the regional juvenile detention centers now, and we've talked with Hidalgo that we've told them that we would watch their adults if they would take our juveniles with.
We've offered Hidalgo and Catron, Mike.
So
I think the average census in Catron's 6, so they're having a hard time maintaining a administrator in a jail and everything for 6.
And Hidalgo also,
Yeah.
you know, the lack of prisoners, since they lost that contract, they don't have the numbers.
No, they don't.
They got a brand new jail.
They don't have their numbers. We've got some room in our facility. You know, we would look at it. It's not a lot of revenue, but it would be enough to offset the cost of us housing our juveniles somewhere else. And so
Mike's over there squinting as you're speaking. Mike's over there squinting as you're speaking.
it's
What are you doing to me?
it's not a ton of money for juveniles. You get a lot more money watching juveniles than you do adults, but we would be able to offset our costs because we don't have as many juveniles as they do adults. The next item is the Southwest New Mexico Green Chamber of Commerce, Mississippi McAndrews, to give an update on tourism in the visitor center. Seems like this is the meeting that everybody wanted to give their updates about where they're going, and so that will be... Next item is disapprove the acceptance of the Viva Santa Rita petition to create an improvement district. This is the Viva Santa Rita is the one out towards the Members area. It's one we've been working on. We've been working on 2. This one is less complicated than the Loma Verde because of there was already the dedicated public right-of-ways in this subdivision, whereas Loma Verde, we're doing that portion of it. And so they've put together their petition. Mr. Mingus has reviewed it. It meets the criteria to continue forward. And so the first step would be to present the petition to the commissioners for acceptance of the petition, and once the petition is accepted, then we will move forward with the rest of the steps involved. One of the items that we will do, we've talked about before, is we'll approach New Mexico Finance Authority, because we've let all the residents know as they come forward in these types of deals, we're going to take out loans for these so that we don't tap the general fund. The loan will be repaid. It'll be repaid by the mill levy that happens on these properties. There'll be an extra mill levy on their property tax. That'll be the source of funds to repay the loan, and they'll also repay the interest of that loan, plus any costs we have for surveying or anything that we have into it. And so we'll put the total package together, and that's kind of the step that'll be next that Dory will be working on. But the first portion is, before we go through all that legwork, we wanted to bring the petition to the commissioners for your acceptance and then start all the process, instead of going down through all that process and then come, and if the commission were to vote no to not accept these roads, then we've just wasted their time and our time. And so we just want to get that up front.
John, on this map that is attached in the packet, this Miners Legend Road, is that coming out, is this 180?
No.
It's coming out
152?
What is that?
It's 152 across the front.
This is,
I mean 152, yeah.
yeah, this is our fire station.
There were two subdivisions in there, and so
Fire station. This is Lamp Bright Road. So that first subdivision is the
the
one
first
where
subdivision is, they're looking at this back. The second subdivision?
just back on
The
that.
first
subdivision is actually the old highway. Oh, is it? Yeah.
So that's where they're looking at. They're looking at the Kneeling Nun and a little portion of Miner's Legend. And then it looks like Moon Shadow on the end or something like that, is what my little map, I don't have a big map like you. Mine has this little road, Moon Shadow, drawn in. So,
I don't have.
So is it just portions of these though that we're accepting?
no, they've already been accepted.
Okay.
This is what will become the subdivision, the improvement district, is the roads that are Kneeling Nun, and then
Miners Legend.
a little portion of Miner's Legend, and then see, mine has this road drawn in at the end, Moon Shadow.
Moon Shadow, which would be maybe right in here.
See, there's,
That would be right here, Moon Shadow. Right here.
yeah, it's right at the end of Kneeling Nun, towards the, east?
Yes.
East end of Kneeling Nun. Has a road drawn in, Moon Shadow.
I just have it there.
The petitions for everyone along Miners Legend and Kneeling Nun, those were the two that we gave estimates for, those two roads.
That's what I thought. Figured we'd ferret that out in the next 2 days before we had our meeting. Okay.
So, the next item is the fiscal year 2014 County Fire Protection Fund distribution application for the volunteer fire department. This will be, each of the fire departments every year has to reapply for their fire funds for the next year. It's based on their ISO rating and also based on the number of main stations they have. So you have in here, the Grant County one is the position of the fire management officer qualified as a station. So they're eligible for a minimum amount of $52,418. Last year, I think it was $65,000 that was received. The next is Cliff Gila. They're eligible for $78,116 at a minimum. Fort Bayard is eligible for $55,501. The lower Members is $78,116. Pinos Altos is $150,062. Santa Rita is eligible for $55,501, which is a big jump for them. They've gone from an ISO 9 to an ISO 7 in their latest deal. They've done a really good job, and with the new station they're building, they will probably go down to a 6, so they'll be our lowest fire department, and so they'll really increase their funding. They've done a real good job there. Sapio Creek is eligible for $52,418. And then Tyrone is eligible for $292,920, and that's because of the total number of stations that they have that are main stations. They get funding for each one of those mains, and their ISO is a 6, so Santa Rita would go to be equivalent to them. Then you have Upper Members is $78,116. And Whiskey Creek is the last at $111,002, and they have 2 main stations, or no, yeah, 2 stations, and there are 7. So those are due every year to get their funding, and that's used for. This funding is the funding they use for buying equipment. They can offset some of their training costs with it. They can purchase food if they are on a fire or into a training session of 8 hours or more. They can buy food. They buy water and Gatorade and stuff at all times to keep on the truck because it is for rehydration. But they can't, they're not allowed to purchase out of this, like license plates, things like that. They can't. They now have changed the rules this year that if they have an EMS department attached to their fire station, they're allowed to use their fire funds to offset some of their EMS costs. That's something that's changed. In the past, you were never allowed to do that. They would make us, if anything said EMS on it, they'd make us refund that money back into the account and charge it out of somewhere else. So that is something that changed in this legislature, that these fire departments will now be able to help offset some of the costs of their EMS, because the EMS funds for Tyrone, you get $292,000 for the fire funds. Their EMS funds, I think Tyrone gets around $4,000 for EMS funds. So there's a real disparity, and the EMS is very expensive for all the supplies, all the training that's required for those individuals, and so now they'll be able to help offset those costs and do a better job with the EMS services.
I've been attending their chief meetings, and it's amazing how dedicated these gentlemen are to the volunteer fire departments, and all the training that they actually have to be volunteers. They really need to be commended for jobs well done.
No, they do a very good job. I guess it's a tough job because you get called at all hours of the night to go out and save other people, so, and save their possessions. The next item is approve, disapprove policy number 56, Grant County Sheriff's Department Standard Operating Procedures, video recording, photographing, and audio recording of Sheriff's Department personnel by the public. You want to go over that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The reason why this policy was created is there's a misconception from officers and the public in regards to the First Amendment right of the citizens being able to audio, video, record, be around the areas of law enforcement activity. I just wanted to put this in place just to make it clear that the public does have the right to do that as long as they're not interfering with the crime scene. The officers are going to be instructed that if they're too close, they'll move them back. Once a perimeter is set, they're not allowed into that perimeter. It's just to clarify some things with it. I believe the public can be beneficial by, video, taking pictures. Prime example, the bombing in Boston. A lot of the public had their cameras and phones, and that was beneficial to the investigation. So I just want to make it clear to the public that they do have the right to do it as long as they abide by the rules that are in place by law enforcement. That's all it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay.
We move on to contracts and agreements. Item Q, you do not have it in your book yet. It's approve, disapprove commercial lease amendment with Mountain Ridge Ace Hardware LLC. I'll kind of give you a little update, and then I'll let Abby go through some of the changes we're looking at. When we purchased the business and conference center, there was a lease in it already with Ace Hardware. We had to make a couple changes to the lease originally to purchase the property. We made very small changes that State Board of Finance required us to make, and since that time, we've been discussing with the owners, looking at making some amendments to the lease. They've grown their space on the outside of the building, so we have never adjusted for all of that. They've been making payments to us. We've never put it down hard in the lease documents. And so we've been discussing those items and some other various items that we would like to change that would mutually benefit both of us in the lease. So we've met with Mr. Sines, myself, and Ms. Robinson, and kind of come up, we're not changing the whole lease, it's just a couple small items, or a couple sections in the lease, which is why we don't have it now. We're just verifying that we've got, as one section affects another section. So I'll let Abby go over what the changes are.
Well, we're just doing a few revisions, but they're important revisions. We're going to extend the initial lease period for 10 years because we like having ACE in there. It's a really good benefit for the county because it pays for a lot of the maintenance for the building. So we're going to extend the initial lease period to 10 years starting May 1st. And during that period, we're going to increase the rent from $638 to $682 per square foot. Then in the second renewal period, or after the 10 years, there'll be 2 renewal options, each for 5 years. And the first renewal option will be at $782 per square foot. And then the second renewal option will be at $882 per square foot. And again, we're trying to make it so that ACE wants to stay in there, but we also, are able to pay for them to stay in there and pay for the maintenance of the building. And then, as John said, there's been some change in square footage. There's a little increase in the inside. It's not little, but compared to the full square footage, it's not that much. It's going from 17,052 square foot to 17,976 square foot. And ACE has been paying for that already. And then in the outdoor space, everybody's seen the patio. It's really nice out there. That is, I didn't write down the square footage of it, but it's approximately 13,000 square feet. So we're going to increase the amount of square footage that they can use outside and put that in a more permanent, it's called the permanent option under the lease, where they actually rent that outdoor space on a permanent basis. And then their increase in square footage on the inside of the building will also increase their share of their CAM costs, which is, I don't know if John can describe it better than I can. It's like their portion of the cost of maintenance and upkeep of the building. It'll increase slightly, I think, with that increased square footage. So they're not major changes, and I think everybody's pleased with the arrangement, so we're just working out the details and continuing on. And then, so I should have a hard copy, hopefully. I don't think I'll be able to get it done today, but by tomorrow. And like John said, the changes aren't necessarily that extensive. I just have to do a lot of calculations, recalculation, and then make sure that the changes that we're making don't affect other provisions in the lease, because it's a really big lease. So that takes a little while.
And one thing we're changing with the CAM charges. Currently, the way the CAM charges are done is they pay us 1/12 of the year's CAM charges each month, and then at the end of every year in January, we go through and figure out how much money we paid in common area maintenance, and it's really never, it ends up being they pay us about $26,000 a year, and I end up in January cutting them a check back for about $20,000, because they pay a 26th of the total costs that we have, or 26%, not a 26%. So what we've talked about doing is, instead of them paying us, and I've got to hold that money in the account and then cut a check back at the end, is I'll bill them in January for their 26% of my CAM charges. And then that way I'm not every January cutting a check for $20,000 back. It's easier for him, because then he has the cash flow throughout the year instead of waiting for me to get around to cutting him this check back. I'll just send him a bill in January, and he'll pay us at that point in time his 26%, or whatever the percentage is with this new figures of the common area maintenance charges. And I think it'll be just a lot easier on our side for tracking. We won't have to hold that money aside and wait. because it's not benefiting us. I always have to pay it back. When they originally set up the lease with the previous owners, there was things like property tax. There was other things that went in there that go away as soon as I buy the building because I don't pay property tax. So it really reduced their CAM charges. That mainly it's because we're redoing the parking lot now, we don't have a large amount of common area maintenance we do. It's just the water bills, the electric bills, things like that they're paying a portion of. And so we talked about adjusting it that way. Mr. Sines said he's good with it either way it is. For me, I just think it's easier on Grant County's side if I bill him instead of trying to collect this all year long.
Resolution?
So, the first is support of Cottage Sand Road Improvement Project, control number 1100850. This is a resolution to support the Cottage Sand Road Safety Improvement Project, control number 1100850. Whereas Cottage Sand is currently the road in Grant County certified mileage inventory. And Grant County currently maintains the road with funds provided by the Grant County General Fund. Will continue to maintain the road with good and monitoring public within its jurisdiction. It assumes all liabilities of the road project funded through the high-risk rural road funds consisted of placing warning lights and signage for a curve that is determined to be high risk. And Grant County will reserve the monies from the Grant County General Fund, Grant County General Fund, to pay all construction costs on the Cottage Sand Road project until work is performed and a request for reimbursement can be issued. What this is that project that the commission approved to put those warning lights and signage that the state has given us a grant right there at that intersection where you're coming down off the hill. This Earl's project, that they can do the project. It's just we have to have the resolution that says that we'll hold that money aside and that we will abide by their rules. We didn't do that when we passed the agreement originally. So they've come back and said they need this to start that project going. So that's what this is for. And it's about $30,000, Earl? $50,000? $50,000 project. The next is approve, disapprove resolution R13-28 declaring intent to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $2.5 million for the Southwest Solid Waste Authority improvement and refunding revenue bonds. This is coming in front of the commission before, oh man, I don't know how long ago it was, before I came to the commission, when they moved the solid waste, they formed the Solid Waste Authority and moved the landfills out from under Silver City and started the Southwest Solid Waste Authority. Grant County and the town of Silver City gave a loan to Southwest Solid Waste Authority to get going, that we're paid back each month a portion on our bill. We deduct a portion of our bill for that loan repayment. Currently, the outstanding debt is approximately around $130,000, I believe, on it. The Solid Waste Authority has gone and looked at putting together a $2.5 million bond to reauthorize their debt. So what they would do is they would go out for bonds to pay the county back, pay the city back. They would pay off their loans with Caterpillar on some of their equipment that they have. They would get the money to start working on their future sales out of this money. And so it's a whole package they've put together. Because part of the original monies that the solid waste has gotten, Grant County and the town of Silver City's environmental gross receipts tax that was put together and is pledged to pay those loans off is part of that package. So to go forward and refinance, the refinance companies want the commission to pledge that environmental gross receipts tax again. We've talked with the Solid Waste Authority. What we would do is we would basically let them take the solid waste, the environmental gross receipts, but then they would give us a credit for that environmental gross receipts tax back to us. They would pay us off the $130,000 they owe us right up front. But to refinance, they need to have the pledge of town of Silver City and Grant County again on that environmental gross receipts tax. It's a gross receipts tax that's charged only in the county. It doesn't extend into the municipalities like the other gross receipts taxes that we have. This one stops at any municipal boundary. And so they want us to repledge it I think it's a good idea to do it. We're not using it. We had talked about if we could free it up, looking at using it as a way to pay our solid waste bills, and this kind of does that by them giving us the credit for whatever's collected. We collect approximately, I think it's about $250,000 on this gross receipts tax, and so they would give us credit for that each year. They would make their payments. It doesn't put Grant County on the hook for anything from our general fund. It just repledges that environmental gross receipts tax. It's currently already pledged there, but it lets the Solid Waste Authority free themselves up out from under some higher cost loans that will allow them to operate better, operate at a lower level, to build their reserves better that they've got to build for the closure and closeout of the landfill in the future. It kind of makes doing business for them a lot easier. And it doesn't change the way we do business for Grant County if we continue to pledge this. It's not going to affect anything we're doing. And so that's why this comes in front of you. It's so that they can go forward with that. If the commission chooses not to pledge the gross receipts tax, it kind of sounded like it's going to be harder to pass their $2.5 million bond just because of the bonding companies like that pledge of that gross receipts tax between the town of Silver City and Grant County to help offset the cost of that.
Well, we actually said no, and they said no.
Yeah. We started off that way.
I wanted it back.
And it's so, if we wish to get our $130,000 back right now, we can go forward. So, and that's what this one is.
Mr. Chairman, John, who's working on this?
This is,
Perry?
no, this is Mark Valenzuela with George K. Baum, and then he has got, a gentleman, I can't think of his name. I'll have to pull the email, I'll get it to you. It's what? Chris Muirhead
This caught me off guard.
is what he is. Chris Muirhead is the one that Mark has been working with on this, as the counsel, bond counsel. We've been given a resolution for Terry's program. As part of Terry's program, he receives his money from the State Area Agency on Aging through the non-metro area agency on aging through the North Central COG, I think it's yours. He just handed me this. And so, no, it's not on the agenda. He just handed it to me. And so they've come to Terry, we've done his agreements and sent them up there. They've asked that he needs to do a resolution to make his agreements effective.
Yes, that was for, I think they omitted it. It was on the 4-year plan that was signed last year. And Randy and I looked through everything this morning and it wasn't there. So I just think they omitted it. So they just want to put it in there.
So they've asked that we submit this to them for his senior services programs. We've never done the resolution, and so that's all it is. It's a very small resolution saying we're participating in their programs, and we'll follow our 4-year plan. So we'd add that to the agenda, and then wanted to ask the commissioners. I've been approached by the shooting range board. They currently have 2 openings on the board. We've received a letter from one gentleman that wishes to be on the board. And when the board was originally set up, the commission never set term limits on the board. And so they've asked that if the commission could set term limits. So if the commission wished, I was going to add to the agenda for Thursday under new business, the appointment of another member to that board because of the death of Mr. Van Dren. He was on that board, and to fill his spot, and then also to pick half of the names that are currently on the board to be a 1-year term and half of them to be a 3-year term. Because that's what they've asked, is that they could have 3-year terms, but we don't want to have the full board be 3 years and have all of them roll off in 3 years. So what I discussed with them is having the commission split and start off a group at 1 year, and then in a year that group can reapply to be back on. and then the other half will be a 3-year.
Is there a job description, roles, responsibilities, something written down for this?
No, kind of how it started is, we had it in the past, it kind of disbanded, and when Commissioner, I guess it was Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Miller, and Commissioner Cedillo were on the board, Mr. Perez and Mr. Henderson came to the commission and asked that there be a shooting range board. They felt that the shooting range was falling in disrepair, that they felt it was a jewel for the area, brought in economic development. They asked the commission to put together a committee, and that's how it got started. Is there was 7 names that were put in, and they were appointed to the committee, and that was it. We didn't have anything. So far, this group has done a very good job. They make recommendations. They're an advisory committee. They work closely with Justin's department as well as myself, meeting with us and bring things to our attention. We've done some upgrades on pouring some concrete steps, redoing the benches, putting in some speaker systems. They're a group of active shooters that are always out there, so they're always looking at the safety issues and different things. They made the recommendation of redoing the trap machine that we just purchased and put out there. Their current recommendations are just really some painting, some minor repairs that they would like to see. We had one time fixed the buzzer light at the trap range so that when they called ceasefire, it would go off, and now it's not working again, and nobody's let us know, so they bring it to our attention. I guess that they haven't even brought it to the attention of the range master. And so those types of things are what they've been doing for us. They get out there in the public. I told them to contact Mary Alice. They wanted to write a little story about the trap machine, and so I said, Mary Alice is our county note taker. I don't write a story.
I was just wondering, what I asked is, I'm wondering, it seems like you're right, that they are doing a very good job, and I'm wondering if it's time to take this to a different level as far as a little more official. Structure? A little more structure. If we're going to start appointing board members to terms rather than just have this ad hoc committee, I mean, is there any reason this has to be done?
No, it does not have to be done this week. We can put it off, and we can do that research for you and bring it to you
It doesn't
at a later date.
But I know we have several other committees that we consider advisory boards for us. I don't think it'd be that hard to put something together for sometime in May to where we can actually make it a legitimate group.
No, we could definitely do that, and I think that would be a good idea, because I know Commissioner Hall has been getting calls from other citizens, residents, trying to start other groups for the shooting range, and we try and direct them. We've already got a group, I mean, we've got one that we've recognized and appointed.
And if we got it to where we actually appointed them in June, then it would be on our calendar year, and so that should be our goal, is to have that ready, approved, so we can make the appointments. And I would probably think that you probably ought to even break it down further than 1 and 3s. You probably ought to do 1, 2s, and 3s for the first time, and then to have everybody a 3-year term.
No, we can do that.
Okay.
We can put that together for you.
And if nothing else, nothing else, just to call for regular meetings. I think this has been some of the problems that they've had, is that they wait until there's problems and then they have a meeting and such, and rather than having a regular meeting, and we can put that part of it, to have regular meetings.
That's fine. We will do that for you then, and we won't add that item. The only item we'll be adding is the resolution for the senior program for authorization, I believe. And then we have the indigent claims, is the last item, which is, they're dated March 31st, 2013. Spoke with Jacob yesterday. We've got 1,029 claims that are the sole community provider claims, totaling $756,666.18, and we have out-of-county claims, which are the indigent, which are 24 claims for $39,378.57. what Jacob Zamora and I talked about yesterday, and I'm going to talk with Ms. Allred and Ms. Branford from the state. We've been continuing to send our quarterly payments to the state, but they've frozen the sole community provider funds to send back down to us. So we're getting to where we've got a quarterly payments coming up, and we're sitting here trying to determine, should we send it? Because we know they're not going to send it back. What this is doing, my understanding from these claims, is these claims are sent up and the state's supposed to send them back to us. They're not doing that. So I want to talk with Beth. I know there's a group been working through the Association of Counties on it really hard with Department of Health, because Department of Health is who Ms. Bransford works for, that is holding the payments. It's not at the federal level. We've talked about the process that happened is the federal government has come in and said they feel that the formula at the state level has been misapplied. I don't think there was any fraudulent activity, anything like that. They just feel that it was interpreted wrong and applied wrong, and so they feel the state of New Mexico owes back the federal government monies under the Sole Community Provider Program. So until they figure that out, the state of New Mexico has froze all Sole Community Provider payments to any of the hospitals throughout the state that qualify. But they've continued to request us to send our quarterly payments to them because we signed the letter saying that we understand that our allotment for Gila Regional Medical Center is X number of dollars. We understand our portion is this, and they send us our quarterly. And so that's why I want to talk with them all and say, look, if you've got this froze, why don't I keep my quarterly payment until you get this unfroze, and then I'll make up all the back payments. The one thing is we send up a little over $2 million every year for them to have it matched and sent back down to Gila Regional. We could be sending that money over to Gila Regional right now and offsetting this receivable that they have that the state's not paying them. So there's a lot of questions in it that the state's not answering. It's really not the federal government's issue because they're saying, look, we're saying you owe us this money. And so the state's trying to figure out how to pay it back. And from what we're hearing on conference calls, there was a conference call during the legislative session that the chairman and I, as we drove back down to Silver City, were listening in on, and then kind of talked with Ms. Allred. It's like the state's trying to push this unfunded mandate down on all the counties and the local governments and the hospitals to pay it back so the state doesn't have to come up with any money, but they're the ones that misread the formula. And so it's becoming everybody pointing fingers at each other and trying to get the other to pay the bill. And so that's why
I have no trouble not sending the money up there if they're not sending it back. So we'll just find out what goes on after that.
No, and so we're going to look at it and see, because that's one thing is we're sending over,
You guys?
we're sending a large payment. We're sending a large payment every quarter to them, and they just hold it. And so we're going to start looking at holding it. The bottom portion, the out-of-county claims, those payments go directly to those different hospitals or doctors that are listed there. And so we're going to do those. I told Jacob those have nothing to do with what's going on with the state on that federal monies. These are by our indigent health care ordinance or resolution. This is for UMC El Paso had one claim. They can claim up to $10,000 is the max. So that's what that is. So we'll pay UMC El Paso $10,000 for a county resident that went there for treatment under the indigent funds. So I will try and find out by Thursday if we're going to ask you to approve or disapprove of the Sole Community Provider piece.
Okay. We'll move into county reports. I'm going to start with Terry.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'd just like you to know that I'm getting ready to send in our proposed budget for the program, either today or tomorrow. And just so you're aware, because we probably by about mid-May, we will have exceeded our contracted units for both home delivered meals and transportation. So I requested an increase in both of those programs as well as additional funding. So I think that from what I can tell, it'll be about late May before we get a response to any of that. That's pretty much all I have unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Trio? I did have a couple of people from the Santa Clara Senior Citizen Center ask if we could put internet Wi-Fi in. Is that something that is possible?
Yeah, we can look at what their internet service provider is. If it's quick enough, we can just go down to Walmart, and it's about $50 for a wireless hub, and we can connect it in. I'll have Angela go take a look at that.
Okay.
And see if it's feasible. Sometimes if you're on a dial-up connection at 256...
We're on a dial-up, though.
No, we're with Quest, so,
Yeah, but
it should be a problem, that's that one thing.
we'll look at it. Sometimes when it's a slow connection, putting wireless on it just really bogs the connection down and makes it worse for them. But I'll have Angela look at it at all the centers.
I just know that there's seniors are getting to where that's a real tool for communication and pictures and stuff. And it's just a service I think we can provide.
Yeah, no, it doesn't cost anything additional each month. It's just the cost originally. So we'll have her look at it.
Thanks, Terry. Earl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Pretty much business as usual down there. We've been patching the last 3 weeks on the roads that we're getting ready to chip seal. We're planning on doing that next week, but Justin, does that bike race start next week?
Bike race starts May 1st. There's already riders in town. I've seen some this weekend. A couple teams are here, pro teams.
Looks like it's going to be a couple weeks then before we do any chip sealing, because a couple of them roads are the ones they use.
Yeah. We don't want to chip seal. Or there'll be billboards of your fake property for every cyclist to go after, because that destroys tires, destroys their race. So
We'll have to change that schedule, and also probably folks in that parking lot over there is going to get changed.
So the headline in the paper needs to say, "County changes entire road program for the bike race."
yeah. So I'm sure they would all appreciate it if you held off on the road they're going to ride on.
Yeah, I imagine they will. That'll also probably put off the fog seal in there at the parking lot too, over there.
The parking lot, they're only going to do one day there, the 30th. They're going to have some rider check-in on that day in the afternoon, and that's all they're doing there. So,
I'll take a look at that then. If those guys planting over there get out of the way, then maybe we can come down and get that done for one day.
yeah, all they were going to do, and then they were going to possibly store their water and their Gatorade items in our loading dock area, which is part of the new asphalt, but you won't be fog sealing. So I don't think it would affect anything that you're going to do there. It's just that one afternoon. They're going to register men's pro and women's pro in that, so it should only take a couple hours.
Other than that, that's all I've got, unless you all have any questions.
Any questions for Earl?
No. Not at all.
None. Justin?
Chairman, Council, Commissioners, what we've been working on, we're about to finish up the RFP for the airport. We should have our selection by this Friday. There's our deadline. It was myself and Anthony, and I had Aaron Sarah down in Deming to be a part of the committee. So he did scan me his stuff and sent it up yesterday, and so we'll be having that done by this Friday to select who we're gonna have. Also about the trap machine, this afternoon I'm gonna be with Jim Powers out there at this. They have a trap machine range out there in Hurley, and I'm going to get the specs so we can make ours a competitive trap machine, so we can host, and if they want to host any kind of competitive competition for trap shooting, we will have the specs, because it has to be a certain specs to have that right to be able to hold the competitions. So we're going to make sure we get everything right before we have it out there, we got everything ready to go, but once I found out to get it right, if we're going to put it in, let's just do it the right way, and that way we could be able to host something ourselves. Just doing the spring maintenance, trying to get everything, hooking up some of the air conditioning units, the AC, the swamp coolers, changing out filters at the jail. We'll be out there this afternoon doing all the filters for the systems here for the HVACs, just trying to do our spring maintenance. Also the conference center, over the weekend, we did have prom there this weekend. Everything did go well. We also had a DWI awareness. I think Cindy McLean had something out there also. We're looking at this weekend having a farmers markets, having an event there this weekend. Then next week we're having the tour of the Gila, and I believe the Gila EDA, you guys are also going to be there. Economic Development's going to be there next week too, so we got it's back up and going, so we're chugging right along.
Tear it up again.
Yeah.
The next time we tear it up, it won't be usable for a while.
Yeah. And also, we're getting ready to install the new oven we had purchased for Terry out there for the Silver Senior Center. It's been sitting here for a few months, but now we're in the process of, we're going to try to get that, it's a double oven, get that installed this week. I'd like to thank my staff. We've been short-staffed the last couple of weeks, but, we are in the process of getting a temporary hired along with the full-time utility laborer, so that's gonna help. But I'd like to thank the guys for all the work they've been doing. We've been pretty busy now. Now the season's coming up and the growing season's getting ready to start, so we're just going full force. If you have any other questions, that's pretty much it.
I just wanted to ask, because Justin and I were at a conference the other day, and don't know where this came from, so I don't know if anybody in here does. We seem to have Santa's sleigh in our back loading dock. And I have never seen the county owning a sleigh, but we have a 2-seat sleigh on skids. Doesn't have wheels, it's actually on skids.
How did he get home?
I don't know.
It's Santa's story.
We don't know where this thing came from, and we were gonna move it out so we could put the Gatorade and stuff in, but I have never seen this sleigh before, and it doesn't have wheels. It's actually on skids.
He's the only one with the gray beard, so I'm assuming he gets your sleigh. I got your beard.
So I don't know if anybody knows what it is, because I don't know where it came from. We've never
From the North Pole.
used the sleigh for anything.
Keeping it down.
It's a 2-seat sleigh, it's all wood, metal rails that it rides on.
Maybe the sheriff can check to see if Santa's missing a sleigh.
Check it on NCIC, Sheriff.
That might be
I
it.
could check into it.
Yeah, because we don't know where it came from, and
It's been
also
sitting
we
there
own
for
the
a couple of
sleigh.
years. That's been
We didn't ask that tag on it. Okay, moving on. Anthony, I know you got a lot today.
Well, water and subdivision's been kind of occupying 90% of my time.
Did you get your brownfield grant?
I don't know,
Oh, okay.
go ahead. But I'll check on that today. And I know that the awards are supposed to come out at the end of this month, and so hopefully we should be. I guess along with that, tomorrow Jacob should be putting out an RFP for professional services. That'll include engineering and environmental and archaeological and surveying. We're going to try and have pretty much an on-call for every professional service that we use, and that way we don't have to wait for quotes and do all those things that have kind of been bogging down the things that we've needed, and even in the past couple of months it's affected us. I asked Ivy today, that time I forgot about it, I talked with A&B Surveying about the parcel out there in Hanover, but to my knowledge we haven't received the plat with signature lines on it either for Loma Verde, so I will make sure and contact them today. I tried to
Yeah, because I was
contact.
hoping we talked about the fire station in Loma Verde today.
Yeah, well, I know they did this, I know they've done the surveying, I don't think that they've platted everything on paper yet. So, they've done the field work, I think we're just waiting on the plat, so.
On the fire station also?
That'll be where it's be located.
Yeah, on the parcel of land we're looking at, Freeport McMoran.
In the road?
The road, Earl, and Mr. Moore had to step out because he's meeting some people out front on finishing the front of the building. Mr. Moore has taken a look and given me an estimate on what the road would cost, so we'll be meeting with Freeport on that.
So they would no longer have to drive through Turnerville
To get to the cemetery.
cemetery, and it would become a county road.
Yeah, so we've got some cost estimates on it.
Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
That's okay, Mr. Chairman. But the other things that, of course, the AWSA has been huge on the spotlight the past couple of months. We did have an input group meeting with ISC. They gave us an update on what they've been doing. The Bureau of Reclamation has done some site visits in the Cliff Gila Valley. They're doing some feasibility studies on potential sites where they could have storage facilities. They're also looking at places where they may have a diversion. They've identified several places along the valley for smaller diversion projects. Of course, the city of Deming put in their amended proposal for a storage facility in Mangus Creek. They included that facility. I think that there's some issues with the Loch Minnow being in the creek. Everything's still pretty preliminary. IST is moving along with all the rest of the projects. As I understand that they have an engineer studying the two reuse projects, our project and Baird's project, along with the regional water system. They have what's called a 10% engineering. I don't know what that is. I think it's probably close to what would be a preliminary engineering report. And so outside of that, I've had a ton of discussions with the commissioner from Luna County and the city manager from Deming, and trying to open up maybe some lines of discussion for potential amendment to their request for a pipeline to Deming. I think that they're more than willing to work with Grant County and all the rest of the stakeholders to try and get a happy, something that everybody can live with. And that's my understanding to this point. And I think the importance of what they're trying to push through is the importance of a regional project, so that we can have something. In speaking with Craig Repke from Interstate Stream Commission, I'm hoping what they're going to try and do next is try and request for more money to try and expedite the engineering portion, the feasibility portion of a potential diversion project. And so I think that's where they're at. They didn't really give that in their meeting, but I think that's probably would be the next step. There was a request from the county manager from Luna County to IST to do exactly that in the input group meeting, and so I think they're going to try and take a look at that. As far as I attended the Floodplain Managers Conference last week, and although we didn't really discuss the AWSA at length, I think that it's as far. I spoke with the floodplain, the Flood Commission director from Luna County, or from Diana County, and there is some major issues in Diana County, and so those problems are real. He informed me that potentially Diana County could lose 2/3 of their overall agricultural products. So that's huge.
Well, and 100% in the Hatch Valley.
And 100%.
100%. Yeah, that was the number that totally shocked me when I found out they were having to pump brackish water to water the chili fields in the Hatch Valley because their wells are so shallow and there's no water deep.
Yeah, there's no water.
That's when I found that out, I was like, we're not even in the game.
Yeah, so I think it's going to get bigger and bigger instead of smaller and smaller. The issue is going to get larger. Nobody knows at this point what's going to happen. But I think that it's evident that how he explained it to me is that everything below Percha Dam is actually, when they did the agreements, or that was actually part of Texas, or that the groundwater was actually, everything south of Percha Dam was actually in the same agreement as Texas. So that's what the lawsuit's about right now. So I think that's
We've yet to
That's
beat
big.
Texas once. They've beat us on every lawsuit so far.
I also attended I'm on the team leader for Spike Ditch and Loch Minnow stakeholders group for the endangered species recovery plan. And one of the reasons why the Gila San Francisco Water Commission, as well as Grant County, is concerned is that anything that they have as their action plan for the recovery, could potentially affect the agricultural community in the Cliff-Gila Valley, in the Verdon area, any development, any future development in that area. For instance, if we have a subdivision in that area, it's all critical habitat. Any development could be affected by how those plans come out. And so I have been pushing. Right now, it's all about the fishes and the recovery, and I've been trying to push some type of standard so that private property owners can protect their private property either by levies or some type of construction, that the public entities, state of New Mexico, Grant County, can protect their infrastructure, but I haven't got a good response from them yet. During the floodplain managers conference, I spoke with the New Mexico director, and he informed me that I should probably put that in writing. There's no engineers on the technical team, and so therefore they have no expertise on anything related to bridges or to flood control projects or anything like that. So I'm going to write a letter, see if I can't get somebody on there, maybe to at least address it in the plan itself. So I kind of open up, some avenues for some discussions between the public entities and or private people that want to try and protect their private properties. Right now, since there's critical habitat, we spent 2 years trying to get a plan through with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and had funding through the Water Trust Board to do that. I could imagine if an individual would to attempt to try and do that would be almost impossible. So, subdivisions. We've been working with BT Enterprises to try and get a fix for the Wind Canyon subdivision roads. I've done quite a bit of research on potential base course materials or sub-base materials that would be acceptable for if there was a variance request from them to the commission. The tests that we have done have been pretty positive. There's a couple of places that I would say would be unacceptable material for a good overall base. Earl and myself went out there yesterday. Before I would make a recommendation, I wanted to make sure that the materials that I felt were acceptable to not have to have base course or some type of friction course on top, wouldn't cause any excess wear to the machinery that the road department has, those type of things like that. And he seemed to feel pretty comfortable. There's some things that we discussed about redoing the subgrade so that we could have 2% slopes or a crown in the road, some things with a few drainage items. And then this morning, before I came in, I had a map with me, and when I was going on the road, it felt like maybe the road wasn't in where it was platted, and there is one place where the road is actually outside of where it was platted, and so we're going to have to deal with that issue also. It is within one parcel, so I think that it'll be an easy fix, but it's something that we're going to have to address. And I discussed with Abby yesterday, and I think the next move has to come from the developer. I think that everything that I've done is to the point where I can make a good recommendation to the commissioners on the portions of the road that are going to have to be improved, and the portions of the road that I feel are perfectly acceptable and would meet pretty close to what our maintenance standards are already. So I think we're right there. I think the next thing has to come from the developer, though. They're going to have to do some things before we can move forward.
Anthony, I'd just like to commend you on the well job you do representing Grant County. I've been to a lot of meetings here lately that you represent us on, and you've done a heck of a job. You put out a lot of good information out there, and you've been doing it for so long that you know what you're talking about. So it's been a great opportunity to hear you speak and learn from you at the same time. But I commend you for the well job you're doing representing us. I also wanted to ask you, I've had a few people request speed humps or speed bumps on some of the county roads. And I believe that you were on the committee at the time where they passed an ordinance and didn't allow the roads through the county. What was the reason why we didn't allow the speed bumps or speed humps?
I think there was a couple of reasons. One, I think that we took a look at a couple of things. We don't really have school zones, and I think that those are actually designed for those type of places. Anytime that you place a barrier in the road, and you have to maintain that road according to those barriers that you put in there. It's the same as the speed limits on, for instance, on gravel roads. If you put a speed limit on the gravel road, then you have to maintain that road according to what that speed limit is. I think you set yourself up for some liability issues, and since our roads are more rural roads than they are urbanized roads, then it kind of changes what you would think about as placing speed barriers, because that's what they are. You're trying to get the traffic to slow down. In urban roads, you have minimal speed limits. Here, most of our roads are anywhere from 35 to 45 miles an hour. We don't really have. And if you put a speed hump on a 35-mile-an-hour road, you're going to create a liability. And so I think that's why when we took a look at it, they decided not to pursue it.
And the people that have been calling is from the Ridges area. They said there's a lot of kids in those areas with all the mobile homes there, there by Scott Park. And they're just afraid some kids are going to get run over in the evenings after school or what have you.
I don't think, are you talking about, I think we only have 2 roads, I think, that are county maintained roads in that area. The others are privately owned.
I believe these are some of the, or 2 of the roads that you're talking about.
We certainly, what we'd have to do, Mr. Ramos, is we'd have to probably do a speed study or do a study on the roadway itself, reduce the overall traffic speed, and then we could potentially put a barrier on there.
And it's a road right after Mobile Drive. I don't know the exact name, but I think that's have to get it.
It's a Grant County maintained road.
Okay. Something like that, one of those.
Yeah, if it's one of the ones that are actually in where the mobile homes are, then those are privately owned.
Once you get to Harris Gray subdivision,
right,
he owns those. But those first 3 or 2,
I think there's 2. Mobile Drive and Quail Ridge.
That's it right there. That's the road. The people there have been calling me on that to see if we can do something there. I told him to contact our sheriff and he'd get some people out there, I'm sure.
But I think that's what we'd have to do, though, is we'd have to get an engineer so that we could have some good technical data, and then we could probably try and do something, because if we don't cover ourselves liability-wise, go out there and put a speed hump, I think we're looking for some problems.
Understood. Well, I have a different outlook, but yeah, thanks for sharing that with us.
John?
And one issue with some of those roads is the steepness of them. If we start to put these in there and you get into snow days, you've now slowed the momentum of a vehicle to go up over that, and you could cause more issues getting out of some of those roads on that ridge are pretty steep going down that side. So, like Anthony said, we'll look at it all, and we'll definitely present an opinion to the commission, because we don't want to increase more liability for the citizens.
Anything else?
That's it?
That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
You have more? Anthony, do you have some more? I'm done. All right. Okay, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I've respectfully submitted my report for April of 2013, this month, as the Director at the Grant County facility. What I'd like to do is just briefly touch on some of those, some of my priority issues, those being the current policies and procedures. You can see on my report, we are working on those, and we anticipate it'll probably take us hopefully another month. We can get a draft out of policies and procedures. We'll get them to Abby and also hopefully the Association of Counties and get them approved so we can have some procedures to follow over there at the facility. Item number 2, through my contacts with the state boards, I was able to get a hold of one of the directors of the New Mexico Corrections facility. They graciously accepted my request to have an assessment team come down. They will be here the first week in March. They're going to send 3 to 5 members from Southern. They'll come down and do an entire assessment on the facility and let us know, the areas of our needs and what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. So I have put that together, and they will be coming down. Item number 3, I've designated Sergeant Aguirre as a training coordinator. I do believe this is another one of the priorities along with the policies and procedures. What I'd like for him to do is I've got him set up for several training courses. First thing I'd like to do is make sure that he becomes a field training officer for any new hires. Once he gets that accreditation standard, then he will be able to, any new employees that come in, they will be with him for a period of time, and he'll get them all trained up. And instead of whenever they're prepared to go into any of the post positions, they'll be prepared for that. Also, I'm going to send Sergeant to First Line Supervisor, Sergeant Aguirre, to instructor development so he can come back and provide instruction for all the employees there at the facility, and as opposed to having to send them out, and also defensive tactics. What I've done also is I've afforded an opportunity for all the employees in the back to participate in training. I got a hold of the Department of Public Safety, got their training calendar, and they will now have an opportunity to apply for training opportunities that are being provided by the state. I think it's important that they have that opportunity, so I've afforded that to them. And there's some that are taking advantage of it. Also, other resources, I've contacted the administrator for the Luna County Detention Facility, Mr. Allwell, and he's graciously accepted my request to allow us to attend their training in Deming and Luna County whenever they train up all of their corrections officers. He's told just for us to go ahead and just get them down there, and he'll do that at no cost whenever they do any of their accreditation training or any of the training that they require for their employees there. So I thought that was very nice. We're going to utilize their instructors. I've got all the officers right now trained up. I utilized one of my former lieutenants from the Deming Police Department to get them certified in the use of OC spray, which is the gas. We've got half of them down. He'll come back within a week or so, and we'll finish the other half. We've got half of the officers completed their first aid certification. In fact, when you do the tour today, you'll probably see the other half going through their certification in first aid also. So we're getting them trained up right now also. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get everybody certified and trained up. So it's going to take me a little while, but I believe this is a priority to get them trained. A couple of things that are not on the report. Myself and Deputy Administrator Andazola would like to attend the New Mexico Gang Conference. The purpose of that is we can get some viable information, but I'm also the director of the New Mexico Gang Task Force, and I need to open up the conference and also address the conference attendees. I'd like to be able to attend that and also take Joseph with me so we can get some information on the new trends and that are happening as far as the gangs are concerned. And I've also submitted my application to the National Jail Administrators Training. I have not received anything back yet, but I did apply. I think it's important that I attend that jail administrators course, which is done by a national organization. So, item number 4, the budget. I submitted my budget request, so hopefully you'll take a look at that. And I think there's some items on there that were absolute necessities, and what I also afforded was the employees an opportunity to give me their input. And I think that was important also because I specifically told them it's what we need, not what we'd like. And so I did afford them that opportunity. We've established a promotional process for all the staff. I had a meeting with the DWI coordinator, and I was able to acquire 20 lapel video cameras for the staff to wear at all times. We'll establish a policy to govern that. She also told me that as soon as she receives her next funding cycle, she'll attempt to acquire 20 more, so we should have at least 40 of those lapel cameras for the officers to wear instead of having to have any situations in the back where they would have to go back and get a video camera. All they have to do is just wear them, turn them on, and we can start recording whatever we need to record. The policy will require that any time that the recording device is turned on, they'll immediately give that to the sergeant and lieutenant, and then we'll download all that information before it's returned back to the employee. One thing that we also discussed was the use of GPS equipment for work release, on any work release projects. We put them on the inmates, possibly, we're still exploring that to see if it's going to work out, but I think it's a good idea that anytime they go on work release, we'll be able to know where they're at. So we're exploring that idea also for the work release inmates, and I think Commissioner Hall was asking me about the utilization of inmates on work projects, so this might be part of the answer to your request, Commissioner Hall. I've established a recognition program, and I'm going to kind of put the horse before the cart, but what I'd like to do is we're going to purchase some badges for all the employees, and what I'd like, send a request to all the chairman and both commissioners, when we get those badges, what I'd like to do is have all the employees come up here, and I'd like for all of you to participate in giving out the badges and also administering the oath of office. I think that's very important. So I think, first of all, that's the first thing I'd like to do. So at some point in time at one of the commissioners' meetings, I'd like for all of you to be involved in that. I recently applied for a Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant. That's to allow the staff in the back to wear, what I'm going to try and acquire them is stab-proof vests that they would be worn at all times. Of course, we'll have a policy for that. I sent in my application yesterday. I received information that the application was received, and so I'm just waiting for the particulars that I'll get back. That grant will allow us to purchase these vests, and what they will do is they will pay for half of them. So I think that's pretty good. I did have this grant in Deming, and it allowed us to purchase a lot of the vests for half price. And the last thing is the average daily population for the month of April is 84. The highest population of males was 75. The highest population for females is 20. And right now our maximum capacity is 112. With your I'd like to welcome all of you also to the tour. I'd only ask that any loose items that you might have, if you'd leave them in your vehicle, especially if you have any pocket knives or anything like that, or any sharp objects, if you would please leave them in the vehicle. And also no video or camera devices. We take them in the back for security reasons, for anybody that goes back there. And if there are any correspondence and any requests from the inmates, I'd ask that you allow us to take that information down and respond to those requests, and we will give you our response back to all of you. And we open any questions.
Any questions?
Very good.
I know that we continually get requests for inmates to do cleanup on the roads and stuff like that. I'm assuming that's kind of what you were bringing up. I know that Commissioner Ramos has been on that for 2 solid years. I don't know exactly how many adjudicated inmates you have right now, but that might be something handy to add to your statistics so we would know, because usually it's so few that we really couldn't get much done. And if you knew that statistic, there may be times that we actually could get those grants from the state highway department. Yeah, what's it called now? DOT. Yeah, DOT, Department of Transportation, where we actually get a grant to pay for some of the labor watching those inmates while they clean the roads. So it's something else for you to look into. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and as we go forward on that, Abby and I will get with Mike. We had stopped the outside work program when we had some issues with it. And that's what we need to do, is we're waiting for Mike to get in there and kind of figure out everything that he just bought into. So then we can sit down with him. But one thing that Mike has done that I don't know if he's mentioned in here before, is he's contacted the state corrections and is working on getting a team from them to come down and clean while he's still getting his processes done. Great. So he's working on outside sources of inmates coming in to clean the highways and stuff like that. So he is working diligently to get that performed for the commissioners and the residents that have been requesting it. So that is, like I said, he's doing a lot. He's touching out to a lot of different agencies where his hands are tied in some respects.
Well, it seems like everywhere we have our landfill facilities, it's pretty bad, especially with these bad winds that we've got now. So we appreciate your help on this.
I had to give more information on Mr. Sari's comments. I was able to acquire approximately 8 to 10 state inmates. They're going to be going over to the Fort Baird old facility, and I was able to have Southern, the warden down there, approve 2 vans to come down, and they're going to assist with the old Fort Baird facility, and they're going to remove some of the items and take them over to the new Fort Baird facility. So they did tell me that there was an opportunity to be able to certainly submit our request for any additional use of the state inmates. I know there were some street projects and some highway projects, so certainly please let me know and I will submit those requests for you.
It seems to be that it's getting worse and worse. People aren't covering the back of their vehicles. I know it's hard in the county areas, especially the Arenas Valley area, because they have to transport their trash. So maybe we need to work on our ordinance and put a little more teeth in our ordinance.
I agree.
And
Like I said, pick up your pickups, because a lot of the trash is right at the entrance to the main highways where you come off of the private roads. And if they throw their trash in the back of their truck, maybe a cup or maybe a whole bunch, and first thing you know, it's out on the highway. So everyone has to participate in this.
Okay. Anything else? All right, we'll move across the way and we'll go to Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Give a report for our last quarter, which was January through March. For this year, we had a total of 978 calls for service. In those calls, we had 447 reports that were taken, which were offense incident reports. We investigated 63 motor vehicle collisions. There's been quite a bit of accidents going on. The major issue we've been having within this last quarter was burglaries. We've been getting targeted pretty hard with burglaries, but I'm pleased to report that we've made some arrests. We've done some stuff that has brought that down. They're going into the detention center and stuff. So my guys have been diligently working out in the areas that we've been getting targeted. I just asked the public to please report any suspicious activity, suspicious people out in their neighborhoods. I do have people out working, so any help we can get from the public, we do really appreciate. As it was mentioned earlier, this weekend was prom for Cobry, Silver, and Cliff. We were able to cover all 3. I had quite a bit of staff out, not just me, the state police also assisted. But it was a fairly quiet prom weekend with a great race also going on. There was a lot of activity, but nothing major happened, so I'm pleased to report that. This Saturday, the Sheriff's Office, along with the Police Department, Silver City, are going to be doing a drug take-back program at Walgreens from 10 to 2 on Saturday. That's for any medication that people might have in their homes that are extra that they don't need, that they want to get rid of rather than flushing them down the toilet or throwing them out in the trash. We will be there for 4 hours. We encourage the public to bring them, and we'll dispose of them properly through the DEA. I also wanted to acknowledge our reps that during this legislative session, they did provide money for the Sheriff's Office to be able to build an evidence vault, something that we really are in dire need of. I want to, thank them for considering us and doing that. Also, thank you guys for pushing it. It's going to be a real benefit to us. Now we'll get it built here in this building, and we'll be able to monitor our evidence and track it here. So that's, I want to thank everybody that participated in that, because it's going to really help us out. Other than that, I have nothing else to report unless you have any questions.
Any questions for the Sheriff today?
No?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You get off easy. Steve?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, First item I'd like to report on is the tax sale on April the 4th. We had 67 items that were up on the list. Of those, 4 signed installment agreements with the state. 3 were removed for various reasons that the title inspectors came up with, and we collected 58 of those outstanding taxes, and there were only 2 parcels that were sold, and they were sold for $200 a piece, and we still haven't seen the money from the state for that. But on the 58 items that our staff collected, that was $93,617.66 that was collected. So we've been pretty fortunate. The next item is the tax collection, and I've given you, there's a correction that should be as of 16th of April instead of March. It is actually from April. We're at 71% collection rate, so far collected $4,024,303. We still have approximately $1,661,000 to collect in outstanding taxes. There's been a little, my attendance at the big BIPO meeting up in Albuquerque, we learned some pretty valuable information. There was, I guess, some miscommunication by DFA, and from now on, there is a DFA directive 3.6.5.50 that says that tax distributions will be done no earlier than the 15th day of the month preceding, after the taxes are collected, and no later than 5 working days after the 15th. So it's kind of they had sent a directive saying that they had to have the money up there by the 10th, and that's what we were going by and doing our distribution to comply with that, getting the state funds up there by the 10th. And so we've been kind of corrected on that. So we'll be doing our distribution approximately on the 20th of the month to be in compliance. Our staff has been working really hard, and we sent out approximately 800 courtesy letters for the 2010 delinquency accounts. Of those, we've collected quite a few. We're still getting calls every day and people sending in money, so we are getting all of those, a lot of action on it. So, and then now with the notices that have been in the newspaper for the second half taxes for the 2012 collections are starting to pick up again. I also handed you copies of the ordinance, the proposed ordinance that I've been working with Abby on, and basically the way the ordinances and statutes are, there's nothing, the current tax releases that are being issued are only required to be carried by the transporter with them in the file. This ordinance will create this type of this is more or less the final size and color that is going to be used for these, and all the counties have committed, all the treasurers in the state and the affiliate have committed to go to their counties. They're using this basic ordinance as the template that they'll be using, of course adjusting to their own personal needs and what have you. But this gives the police forces, whether it's state, DOT, whoever, something to look for. This actually required to be posted on the back end of the manufactured home that's being moved. And so, there's several ordinances out there. Our ordinance goes one step further than what's out there, and that's in requiring that this be removed by an authorized county official. Right now, tentatively, we have something worked out with our code enforcement officer, and we're going to be also having, if for whatever reason he can't go out and remove this, someone from our office or perhaps the assessor's office will go out and retrieve these. And the purpose is to be able to bring these in and take them to the assessor's office so they can assure that they're getting these manufactured homes picked up on the tax rolls, and that it's a timely thing, and they're not just being taken somewhere and stored for a long time and then sneaked into someplace and what have you. It's actually trying to make sure that our tax collections and everything are accurate. Even though we are at 71% right now, it's in that's for the current year, and overall about 98%. Why not go for 100%? I mean, that's ultimately my goal, but whatever the steps are that we need to do to go ahead and have you consider this ordinance for, as soon as possible, that would be also what I would like to submit to you, so that we can go ahead with the process and have the hearings or whatever it is, whatever's required.
Has Abby had this ordinance?
Yeah, I think what we talked about, Steve, is your first step is to attach the resolution to a memo, give it to John, and ask for the process to start.
Okay.
And I just have one, in the definitions, on page 2 of 5, under Article 4, and this just has to deal with that new law that was passed up at the legislature about paying property tax in advance. Under A, it says all property taxes due or to become due on the manufactured home for the current tax year. I think we need to define current tax year, because that new law that was passed is trying to define current tax year as of January 1st, it starts a new tax year. And so they're trying to, you have to calculate new taxes if somebody's dividing or combining. And I don't know if that's what you're trying to do here, because we haven't had that, there's no language in here that says how that's supposed to happen, or if you're trying to say current tax year, the year that you've billed for, like our fiscal year, there's two different definitions now because of that new ordinance, or that new law that went through legislature this year, that they've now considered current tax year January 1. If you do anything after January 1st, that's a new tax year, and the assessor has to now try and calculate based on last year's numbers and last year's values, because he hasn't already valued things. So I think we just need to define what we're saying by current tax year, so it's clear.
Well, our original intent was only like what's due right now, not the fiscal year. In other words, 2012 taxes are what's due for during this time period. But that's like I said, we're not really. Of course, in a way, it's a moot point, because on mobile homes and manufactured homes, when they get the tax release, they actually have to pay the taxes in advance. So it's already covered in that.
I think it's statutory.
Yeah, and that's just saying, because of reading, there's so many different ones out there now. It could get confusing on what we're trying to make sure. So if there's something out there, then we can reference that in here that says what it is, just so it's clear. Because of the laws that happened this year, you and I have had many discussions about that kind of change from what you thought it was going to be to what it ended up being, and I think it changed on everybody. So that's one thing, is just reading through it. I think we need to make it really clear so that when we're gone, down the road, whoever's the new treasurer, the county manager, the assessor, however it is, the intent is there, and people aren't going to say, well, I think I read it this way or that way, because we already do that with some things.
Okay, so, and by the way, we're still working on the other ordinance similar to that bill that was passed that was, kind of had its issues, so we'll try to address that as well. As I said, we've sent out the courtesy letters on the delinquent taxes and have had very good response. And I want to thank the assessor and his office for their assistance. We've been, we sent out approximately 800 of these notices, and we've received 6 back as not deliverable because of addresses. And, we've been working closely with the assessor's office and trying to make sure any address changes are recorded both in our offices and keep that and like I said, we've had really good results just on that. I have also gone over our requested budget with Linda, and I can just say that I hope that we can have more discussions on it and things like that as we do evolve and change. Part of the issues bringing in solid waste to our office, and we have already been doing a little bit of cross-training and working together to, the girls have been doing a lot of assisting Mr. Martinez in doing his billing, doing his collections, and everything that we've been doing. We sent out approximately 600 and some courtesy letters to the solid waste delinquent accounts, and we had approximately 150 that within a month have come in and paid. So yesterday we sent the certified letters, and those certified letters are indicating that there will be a hearing, a public hearing that we coordinated with John to be held on June the 11th at 9 a.m. And we're anticipating, like I said, we've collected about 150 of those accounts, but we sent out 544 yesterday, certified letters for indicating that there would be a lien put on the property. And so the reason, well, we tried to put it back as far as we could, but June the 11th was the date that, like I said, we arranged with John. That'll give us enough time, once they're approved, to be able to take these over to the clerk's office and get the actual liens recorded. So, unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
I just want to see on this document you gave us, says balances as of March 16th. Is that a typo? Is it these pretty current? Or?
Yeah, there should be.
Should be April.
Oh, okay. That's pretty much.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Appreciate you getting after those solid waste fees. Really did. Okay, you want to go ahead and move to Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go here because I want to introduce my deputy assessor, Mary Guthrie, and in that case, is going to be giving coming down on their annual evaluation for the assessor's office, and so in that during the budget time, we have to put together a reappraisal plan and submit that to the commission, and so with my deputy's help on putting this together, we do it annually. It's basically the format of how we go through the appraisal process. The other thing, real quick, to go back on what Steve was saying, I mean, the values are set as of January 1. So when we're talking about
taxes, and when taxes are due, the values are set January 1 each year. So anyway, going back to the reappraisal plan, I'm not going to go into it verbatim, but it just gives you the table of contents there on page 1. Tells you what the plan is all about, mission statement, program outline, the overview of the program, and as you go through it, there's a mission statement, and then you get to the program outline, which is on page 3. Talks about demonstrate to the county commission the benefit of current and correct property values and why we have a reappraisal program and why it's funded. And the reason why it's funded is based on this program that we outline to continue to increase the valuation so that the county has the revenue to run the government as far as the services are concerned. If you look on page 4, which I think is probably the most important, is the appraised property valuation facts, and it goes through each year from 2005 to 2012. The reason why 2013 isn't in there, obviously, is because we're not at that point yet. We certify the values to the state by June 15th of every year, and that's when I'll have the numbers. But if you look since I took office in 2007, we've been able to increase the values, and by doing that, at the end of the year, when it comes to the tax rates, with the valuation and the yield control formula that we put in with DFA and Property Tax Division, that determines what the rate is that's going to be applied to each property owner. So the more value we could bring in, the way I've tried to explain it to the property owners of Grant County is the more value you bring in, the bigger the piece of the pie, the smaller each individual slice. And so the more value we have, the less the tax rate would be placed on those individuals. Now, I'm only talking about county. You still got the city, you got the schools, you have the municipalities, Baird, Central, Hurley, and of course Silver City. They have their own rates. But I'm here talking strictly about the county's rate and the county's revenues. So if you look down, again real quick on page 4, it talks about right now, if you look at copper, which is a big valuation for Grant County, it has diminished a little bit over the years, but now that the Freeport is up and running, and there's a 3-year formula that's in copper ad valorem tax, it looks like it'll start increasing a little bit, and that would help us out as far as the valuation and as far as the rate. If you go to page 7, talks about where we're at with the reappraisal plan. I have a little synopsis in there about what we've done and how we've continued to go forward on revaluing property and reviewing property in Grant County. I really do want to thank my staff, from my deputy on to all the employees in the office. They've done a heck of a job based on the amount of employees I have and trying to cover all of Grant County. So what I've done there is I've taken the county into 4 sections, and if you go to the next page where the map is, you'll see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about breaking up the county in 4 different sections. And you look on the bottom, the colors represent the years that we're doing and what we have going forward. And so if you look at those blue areas, those obviously are the most populated areas that we were able to look at. So you will see some white in there that shows haven't been looked at. Of course, we have ranching land in the rural areas, up in the Gila and Cliff area, and so you might have property owners that have multiple sections of ownership, but we were able to get, and that's on an agricultural classification, but we were able to at least review the ranch homes and some of the improvements that they have on the property. So in going forward, this map really gives you an idea of where we're at and where we're going. And that's basically what this reappraisal plan tells you and tells the county what we can look for. I don't have, it continues to go on the scope of the activities of how the reappraisal plan is put out, how we go about it, the implementation of the property valuation plan, and of course the fleet, which is also important, to the evaluation plan, because obviously if you have vehicles that can get out, we're always in the rural areas, they do take a beating. We're able to purchase 2 new vehicles this year with the reappraisal plan revenue that comes in. That has helped us to get out into these rural areas, because I think it's important that in order to minimize maintenance cost and maximum vehicle usage, the older vehicles in the existing fleet must be replaced. And that's what we've tried to do over the past 5 years, is to replace vehicles. I know the road department, along with the sheriff's department, understands what I'm talking about when we're talking about fleet, because it's important that you keep a fleet that is less cost in maintenance, as far as trying to, always having to fix them up. But if you do the maintenance, the proper maintenance to the vehicles, then they're going to last you that much longer. And then, of course, there's a picture of our fleet there. Shows we have 5 vehicles. They're all being utilized out in the field, in the rural areas. And so, and then it just goes on to show the mapping department, the workload production of the appraisal department. Again, this is all based on the evaluation that will be taking place for the assessor annually by the State of New Mexico Property Tax Division. And so, I don't want to go into more detail, but if you have any questions, I'll take them at this time.
Any questions for the assessor?
Thanks for the homework.
I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, I've got to thank my deputy here because, she puts this together. It's really a PowerPoint presentation, but I think that over the years, we've done a good job with it. I thought we can just bring it to you all and just, go over some of the highlights of the reappraisal plan. And I think it's important, if you look at the revenues coming in, I think property tax brings in over 50% of the revenue. The other thing is what we're seeing now is that if you look at the housing data, on the higher end homes, the values aren't there. But in the medium range and mid-range homes, the inventory isn't as big as it was in 2007. Of course, everybody knows in 2007 is where we had the big fall. But right now, banks are starting to lend. The credit scores are dropping a little bit. And in tune by doing that, banks are lending, people are being able to qualify for more housing loans because the credit scores have dropped a little bit. The other thing is there used to be, and it's not written in stone that you had to have 20% down to purchase a home. It's not like that anymore. It's gone down to 10%. So that's given people another opportunity to at least get into the housing market and purchase homes. So any other questions, or if you have any questions, that's all I have. Do you have anything you want to say?
Anything? No. Well, we really appreciate what you all do, and we really appreciate Mary taking care of you.
Yeah, that's really what it is. But I mean, when you look at a lot of the reports, it is coming from her as far as, how we're working together on it. I mean, obviously, I'm the elected official, but, you always have to have somebody there that makes sure that, everything is done right. So I really appreciate it, and that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to bring her up, because she works hard on all the reports and the data and helps me out, and it just gives me an opportunity to look up, to stand up here and look good. So thank you, unless you have any other questions.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Robert, do you have anything to do?
Business as usual in my office. Everything's going good.
You don't have an election coming up?
No, sir. We just have a little election, but that's for us to know about.
I did have a question for him. I noticed in the paper you were playing bingo on county time, or?
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you win?
No. The students for the, over at the, charter school. Yeah, we're trying to get those.
And that's how they decide who gets to go to school there?
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. Pretty neat little deal they got. Then I guess they're going to have a junior high now. So we drew students for their new junior high.
Super. Good.
Okay. We'll move to John.
We've got a couple things. Budget. I mean, there's a big topic right now. We've been working, myself and Linda Vasquez have been working, we've met with all the directors and the elected officials and gotten what their takes are on what they would like to see done in their budgets for the next year. We're been meeting with Randy, looking at some preliminary numbers, as well as with Mary. Looking at some preliminary numbers coming in. We do not have centrally assessed numbers from the state yet. Those will come at a later time. This is always part of the issue. We're using last year's tax rates. We use last year's centrally assessed numbers, which should go up. So but we don't know how much they'll go up. As you see in Randy's report, it was really good, the breakdown that you see that we were climbing, and we got to a point where we were at $172 million in copper, and then the mine shut down production, and that dropped, and last year it came up a little bit. This year it's supposed to come up a little bit more, and hopefully we can get back to that 172 million, because the difference between 172 million and 130 million in copper value is about $400,000 to the county. And so that's real important that that continues to grow. And we're always watching. Randy has a good relationship, as well as Mary, with the state agencies that set the centrally assessed numbers, so they get some input from them way before we actually get the numbers. They can start to get an idea of what's going to happen there, so we can look at it. We're at a time where the union contract is up for negotiation. The union is wanting to wait until we get a preliminary budget so they can take a look at some more numbers. We're, some unknowns that we've talked about, not knowing there's been hearings on PILT and secure rural schools, don't know where they've gone. They both were at the end of their funding cycle, so they're trying to get them reauthorized. I know Senator Udall is working diligently to try and reauthorize it at 100%. And the big fight comes, as we spoke in the past, from the east. There's not a lot of federal lands in the eastern states, so they all look at it as a handout to the western states, and so every time PILT comes up, they all try and get it squashed because they're not getting any of it, which they shouldn't. For all of us in the western states, we would just rather have the federal government pay us taxes, because this is a payment in lieu of taxes, so they're not paying taxes, they pay this, which the tax is a lot better than the payment we're receiving. So we would all be glad for PILT to go away and they just pay the tax on the lands they own in our states, because that would be a windfall for the western states, because of all the money, all the lands that are here, federal lands on this side. Secure rural schools are also trying to refund. That's one that helps fund the fire management officer position, as well as has been beneficial in replacing the equipment at the road department over the last few years, bringing that equipment up to some newer standards. And so it's helpful. With the road department, what we've done with that money, because that's where the majority of it goes, is we've made one-time purchases and not recurring purchases from that money. So if it goes away, it doesn't affect us as hard as the PILT does to the general fund, because of that. And in this last year's budget, we had budgeted for secure rural schools to go to zero, and it was reauthorized after our budget was done, and we received a payment this year, but it looks like we'll budget it to go away again next year. And so it's really, we're looking at those things. So that's where we've been going with the budget right now. There has been some requests from some of the departments to increase. As Mike said, the detention center is one that hasn't received an increase in employees or a lot of expenditures, but they've increased the size of their facility. They've, as the sheriff reports in every meeting, his arrests are going up, and there's one place he takes them. It's to the Grant County Detention Center, and so their volume has gone up, and we've never increased the staff in that area. So that's one thing we'll be looking at, because of he gets more occupants of his facility. It takes more to run it in a safe manner for everybody there, not only the inmates but the employees, plus the visitors, the family that are coming. So we're looking at all of those items. At the current time, we're not looking at any raises in the budget. We have gotten word from the state, and there's been open enrollment meetings going on. They're looking at increasing our insurance 15%, which to Grant County, that's about $300,000 increase in expenditures, because we pay 100%. I think there's only one other county in the state that pays 100%, so that's a really good benefit. So in essence, it's like our employees have gotten a raise by us paying 100%, otherwise they would have eaten the cost of this increase, 15% increase on our insurance. So we're looking at all those, like I said, all those different calculations. We'll have something put together for you. Plan on having both the meetings in May, the work sessions, as budget meetings that we want to, Linda and I are working to put together two types of budgets. One that shows all the requests from everybody unchanged, exactly how they gave them to us, and one that shows a recommended from Linda and I based on the information we know and the reserves we have to keep, different things like that. So we're working on getting those to you as quick as possible so you can start reviewing, meeting with you all, and then in May, at the first work session, we'll have a budget hearing to discuss what we've come up with in the preliminary budget as a recommended, and then see if there's any changes you wish, and then in the second meeting in May, have you approve it because it's due to DFA by June 1st. So that's basically the process we're going through right now. We have advertised in-house right now the fire management officer position. We've kind of done some changes, done the reorganization, looking at having it as a general services director / fire management officer, taking a couple departments, the public works, the Corey Caminos, the senior services and DWI program, and have them kind of under this director, as well as working with the fire departments. I think it'll be a good combination, because the fact is each one of those other departments has a director that will be running that department, so they'll just be coordinating with that individual, this one, so they can focus on the fire management aspect. We're going to have interview committee that consists of a couple firefighter personnel. Mr. Holguin from the Forest Service has said that he will do it. Going to have the Rural Fire Chiefs Chairman, Mr. Chavez, will be on there, Joe Chavez. And then I'll have a couple of my directors as the management piece, and so they'll look at any applicants we've received in-house. If we don't have anybody that they feel meets the criteria, then what we'll do is put the job posting to the outside. And talking with the Forest Service, they said it'll be a little different than Gary was because of the experience Gary Benavides possessed. His 30 years of service with the Forest Service as a firefighter and smoke jumper, his wife's relationship with the Forest Service for a long term in her position, and his relationship with the state of New Mexico. He was able to do some things that they're saying the new position won't be able to do, like calling in an air tanker. We will have to call Mr. Holguin or call the state fire marshal's office and get them in. But they've pledged to work with us very, very well and be quick at the response. So it shouldn't affect anything as our firefighting abilities. We have some great chiefs out there. And so we're taking a look at that to see if this will be a good fit and work. It'll be a growing job. So that is out right now. Fairbarn, we did have a meeting, myself and Commissioner Hall attended, on pre-construction meeting. We've done the bids, we've got the group on board. There's a 6 to 8 week order timeline on the building, and so they've started that process so that we can get the drawings from the building, so that our architect, Mr. Redford, and the engineer, Mr. Champlin, can draw up the footers for the piers that the building will sit on, and so they can design those, send them back to the manufacturer, and then the contractor will start to do the groundwork and prepare the piers. So as soon as the building comes in, they'll be able to start erecting. The tear down of the old building should start either this week or next week. It all depended on when they got the permit. Yeah, we were trying to get some utilities cut off and get the permit done, and so if they've received their building permit, then they'll go ahead and start to tear down the facility. The contractor that's doing that is Mr. Fowler, and he estimated that would be about 2 to 3 weeks for him to get the old building destroyed, so he'll be well out of the way. And as soon as he gets the northern end of the building destroyed, they can start working on the footers, because then the building, we're changing the orientation from north-south to east-west, so they'll be able to start that. So he's going to start on the north end working south, so that'll free up them on the other side. We're going to try and save as much material as we can for use in that area out there, because there's a lot of tin on that old building. There's a lot of metal out there. Some of it's rusted, some of it's still good panel that people can make use of. Some old beams in it, so we're going to try and salvage as much of it instead of just destroying the materials that are there. They are working on making sure they get the scales out and get them moved and certified. So the push, and it was reiterated many times to the contractor and everybody there, is that this building is open and operational by fair. that is the big push.
September, we hope.
Yeah, and so we've issued the notice to proceed, and so they are pushing, and they think there's going to be no issues meeting the deadlines. The unknown is you've got to order a building, and so if something happens with the building manufacturer, it's totally out of everybody's hands, and so that's the big unknown. Once the building's here, then you've eliminated that issue. So they are working to make sure it is. There will be no restrooms put in the new building this year. We're looking at possibly doing that after the fair, because the push is just to get the building erected, get it leveled underneath, and then Silver High and Cobre High currently are working on new pins for the end. Cliff, sorry. Silver and Cliff High School FFAs are working on new pins for the building, so that as soon as we get it leveled in there, they'll be putting pins up, so we should have no issues being ready for the fair is what everybody's seeing. The conference center, they've worked on the punch list last week, and so they're going through the punch list items on Corey Caminos and the front of the building. There's some little items here and there, just cosmetic items that they're currently looking at. They're looking at, Mr. Moore has been looking at the parking lot, the new paving that was done, to make sure we don't have any, they call them bird baths, where you've got low spots where the water will collect, because then that just runs into maintenance issues for the future. So we want to make sure we get those rectified before we accept the building. But we're getting really close. The girls have talked with Representative Martinez in his job as the maintenance supervisor at Fort Bayard, and have gone through and found some furniture that they can get from the old Fort Bayard that they'll be able to use, so they won't have to go out and buy all new furniture. It's good furniture that was left out there when they moved from the old fort to the new medical center. So they'll be working, doing that. They're going to hopefully maybe try and coordinate when Mike has the inmates out there to see if they can just have those inmates gather that equipment and move it for them. And so everything's going really well in the building. I was in it the other day. It looks really nice. The outside, they're finishing the landscaping. As soon as the landscaping's done, Mr. Moore will go through and they're going to fog seal the parking lot, and then the contractor will come in and restripe the parking lot. So it'll look really nice when it's done. They've done a very nice job on the building. I think that's the most part. We'll go on a tour today.
If you miss something, you can catch up Thursday.
Yeah. I think that's it. The main part is the budget. Okay. That's the important part, and that's our push right now. Let's get budget done.
Commissioner?
Well, last meeting, Dr. Shepard and John gave us a presentation on some projects that we want to get through the county and through the city. But I've had a lot of comments from people throughout, and most people like the idea. I don't think I'll agree with all the projects. I was going to recommend that we put together a committee to look at these projects to see which ones we really want to support. That we make sure that this bond does go through. At least, that's my way of thinking. I think a committee of maybe 7, someone from the university, Silver City, and the county get together and figure out what projects we really want to support. It's a lot of projects for $10 million, and we want to make sure this does go through. We don't want to lose the opportunity for the next 2 years to have to wait before we can start bonding again. So, that's just a recommendation. Hopefully we can do something there. I also want to announce that my brother was appointed to the New Mexico Game Commission as of a week and a half ago. He's an avid hunter, ATV user, road user, forest user, and I think we have of course I'm biased, but we have a good man on the game commission that's going to help Southwest.
You're going to draw every year now, right?
Yeah. Well, I did on Gabe's tag when he
As a matter of fact, when I talked to my brother, he said, you probably won't draw anymore because they're going to say that I'm biased or something, but
You want
I drew this year, so.
Get Gabe to lunch.
But I drew this year, so I'm pretty excited. I also wanted to announce we had a baseball tournament over at the Scott Park this weekend. That park is absolutely beautiful. The city needs to be commended for their hard work and what they did down there. And of course, we need to commend the people that got us the money and or got the cities the money to take care of that project, because it is a beautiful field. We had teams from El Paso, Tucson, Phoenix, Farmington, Albuquerque, and of course Southwest New Mexico. And they were very excited to play in those fields, and they definitely want to come back. So again, I applaud the city for those fields. I'd also like to welcome our Senator Javi Morales. He's sitting out here today, and yeah, I know with his efforts that a lot of that stuff got taken care of, so we appreciate you. Do you have anything to say today? All right. And I believe that's all I've got. Commissioner?
Well, John already covered. First of all, I want to thank the staff. You guys do a great job. You serve the public well, and I want to thank you very much for your participation. We had some good input today. John has already covered the fair building and stuff, which seems to be coming along well. I want to thank Anthony and John for assisting myself and Wynn Canyon. We had I think a very successful meeting here, was it last week, where we talked, a group of citizens from Wynn Canyon met with us and was able to sit down and discuss some issues, along with the gentleman from that owns the property, Thomason. He was there. And I think we're moving along on that. In fact, we were moving good enough. We were ready to do something today and Thursday, but they asked us to hold off for a little bit, and so that's, we're going to be looking at that. I've been attending, of course, several meetings as far as the AWSA is concerned, the San Francisco Water Commission, and also the Gila-Dix Commission, and discussing the issues and listening to what they have to say as far as the AWSA. I was attended in Deming, a very interesting meeting, not along with, but separately, with the chairperson, or chairman, in Deming, with the New Mexico Association of Counties. The regional meeting in Deming, where legislators sat down with us and discussed the session this year, and that was, I think, beneficial. Also, we attended the opening of the season of the Silver City Little League at Scott Park, and those new parks, and just an outstanding job. And it was great to see all those kids out there, and how many were going to be participating. That's money well spent when you spend it on the youth. So it's something I think we can be proud of for years to come. And I'm going to crow a little bit. The Bacomo boys, Dakota being my godson, and Nevada, are going to Adams State. We're going to be wrestling and also playing football. So we wish them well. That's it.
Great, all right. Okay, everybody's been busy, it looks like. Randy and I got to attend a meeting with the Association of Counties and many partners with the BLM and the Department of Transportation and Environment Department, and I'm happy to announce that the Environment Department's redoubling their efforts to stop illegal dumping, and there's a new program coming out. We're going to have the PSAs. We're going to show them here Thursday afternoon, but there's posters. 1-800 number that we'll bring on Thursday also to help with alleviate the illegal dumping that happens all over the state, not just here. If you travel elsewhere, we've got to be one of the trashiest states in the union. Also, I really appreciate Randy representing us at the Association of Counties for all these years, and he's stepping down. I'm just going to announce that I'm going to go ahead and run for that position. I hope that on May 1st that the electors will vote for me. I don't know if anybody else is running or not, but I'm asking for your support. And at this time, unless there's anything else that needs to come before, would ask for a motion for recess.
So moved.
Second. Okay, there's motion to recess. We will reconvene at the Grant County Detention Center, where we're going to have a tour. We will adjourn at the Grant County Detention Center. So at this time, we stand, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We stand in recess.